Today, we're going to start work on making a stand for this big, beautiful beast. So I'm going to start, this is going to be the upright of the stand. So step one is, I figured out about how tall I want that to be, and I got to cut this. So I don't even know if I have a blade that's sharp, so this first part might be challenging. Not the best, not the worst. So we got to cut. We'll have to make it a square, but it'll work. All right, we got a nice big flat piece of steel, and then that's going to be our base. All right, so I'm going to make some measurements, get this thing centered, and then this is galvanized, so I'm going to grind away the galvanization because you don't want to weld to galvy because that makes poison. So the steel got measured, it got marked, the galvanization got ground off, and then I put the tube on there. I had to use some magnets to get the tube level, but now the tube's level and it's all set and secure, and it's time to get welding on this thing. So I started out trying to MIG weld this. The thinnest metal that I'm dealing with here is 3/8 of an inch, and I couldn't get the penetration that I was looking to do with the MIG, so I changed over and I used stick welding, and it dug in a lot better, and I felt a lot better about the strength of the welds using the stick. They're still ugly and terrible because I'm not a good welder, but I believe that they'll hold and they'll work fine.
Not a welder.
So now I'm basically repeating the process again, cleaning off the piece of steel that's going to go on the top, measuring it out, marking it up, and then throwing it up on top of the tube, and I'll use the magnets again to make sure it's level and weld that thing on there so that it's good and solid and sturdy for the vise to sit on. Okay, got this thing welded up terribly. I'm not a good welder, but I'll do the best I can. It seems rugged enough, but I'm sure the weight of that vise is going to put a lot of strains, especially if there's big work pieces. So I cut these pieces of steel, and I'm going to weld them on here to gusset this thing so that it has more strength. So I'm going to weld these four on the bottom. This is pretty rugged steel. I'm not sure how I'm going to do on the top depending on how the vise sits, but I'm probably going to try to gusset the top also. But I'm just going to start with the bottom, and then after I cut for the vise and have it on there and see how it's set, I'll probably do some more reinforcements up here. And I don't like these pieces of steel. There's a steel yard I go by sometimes, maybe 45 minutes from here, and they have, if you buy the pieces from them, it's fairly expensive. Steel is expensive, but they have cut-offs that they have outside the yard, and they sell them for much less. I want to say maybe like 85 cents a pound or something than it would cost just to buy the steel. That's where I get a lot of this stuff. It's just basically a smaller size, but it makes it a lot more affordable for projects like this. Okay, so I welded these gussets on to strengthen the table. I am not a welder, but I believe that they will hold. So the next step is I'm going to cut a piece out for the vise so it can sit on the table, and then I'll have to put something down underneath this thing to balance it because it's not 100% stable. Alright, so we got this piece cut out. We'll have to drill a couple of holes so we can mount this massive piece. Okay, I didn't realize the camera had stopped recording, but I cut this out so that the vise would sit in there, and then I drilled a hole here and I drilled a hole here. These are 3/4 inch bolts to hold the vise down, and I actually wound up having to take a plasma cutter and whack a hole in this tube so that I could get into it, because that's where the bolt wound up, the nut wound up having to go to hold this down. And we're gonna wind up having to clean this up, but this is where it's at right now. And the next piece is I'll have to figure something out for holding this side down where it's broken. I'm thinking probably to drill a hole in here and use a pin to hold it. And I'm gonna put some gussets on the top plate, and I'm gonna weld something to the bottom of this so that it can't move from side to side easily. It'll make it a lot more stable, but this is kind of how the final mount's gonna look, but this will be painted up. But this is where it's at right now. And maybe I'll throw this tape measure down here for a size reference, because that is really big.